before we get into 2023, we kind of need to go through what took place in 2022. In 2022, we had the highest inflation that we've had in decades. We also faced a Federal Reserve that raised interest rates at the fastest pace in decades. We had supply chain disruptions. We had war in Europe. We had continued COVID lockdowns globally. And all of this weighed on risk assets. So putting that in context, as we turn to 2023, we really need to focus on the key drivers of the market right now. And the market really seems to be focused on a couple of things, and that's inflation, the Federal Reserve, and whether we're going into a global recession. So if we take each one of those components individually, we can give you a better sense of what the income and growth team is thinking for 2023. As a reminder, the income and growth portfolio is 1/3 convertible bonds, 1/3 high yield, and 1/3 equities with covered calls. So when we look at the inflation data, most strategists and most of the economic data we're seeing today shows that we are past peak inflation. And like I said, if you look at key strategists, many strategists have inflation coming down all throughout 2023. So the next element is the Federal Reserve. We don't know when the Federal Reserve will stop hiking rates, but one thing does seem pretty clear to us, and that's that we're closer to the end of the Fed cycle rather than the beginning. So the debate of whether peak interest rates is 5%, 5.25%, that's a lot different than where we started the year in 2022. In 2022, interest rates were pretty much zero, and we went to 4% pretty quickly. So again, we don't necessarily know the exact path of when the Federal Reserve will stop hiking rates. But one thing we feel pretty comfortable with is that we are closer to the end of a Fed hike cycle than we are at the beginning. As far as whether we enter a global recession or not, that also is yet to be determined. There is no doubt from listening to many companies globally that there is an economic slowdown happening, and many companies are reacting immediately to that global economic slowdown by stopping ordering, stopping hiring, and in some cases we're beginning to see an acceleration of layoffs. A scenario where we are possibly past peak inflation and closer to the end of a Fed hike cycle, that could be positive for the income and growth portfolio.
投资一定有风险，基金投资有赚有赔，申购前应详阅公开说明书。